The game is gone. Nothing makes sense anymore. The head coach of Burnley, who just got relegated in 19th place, is going to be appointed the head coach of Bayern Munich, who just lost the Bundesliga for the first time in 11 seasons. You see, Bayern Munich and Barcelona have ended up in the same place. They both kind of agreed to fire their coach, and then they both begged their coach to come back. Barcelona took the other step of actually bringing him back and then firing him again, but Thomas Tuchel has decided he wants to go a different direction. There's a lot of jobs open and not a lot of big-time coaches out there to fill them. I get that. That's why Bayern was forced to reach once they couldn't convince Thomas Tuchel to come back and be their coach. But the sentence, a guy that just got relegated in 19th while coaching Burnley has become the Bayern Munich head coach, should never occur. It makes no sense. I understand the logic behind it. I understand what Bayern is trying to accomplish by hiring Vincent Kompany. But it does not make any sense to me, right? This feels like a trend that has taken over the NFL where you are trying to project the potential of head coaches. And I just don't believe that you should be projecting the potential of head coaches as much as you're projecting the potential of some 16-year-old in the youth academy here. Because what Bayern Munich is doing is they have looked at Vincent Kompany and they have looked at the way that he is able to manage and that performance of the Burnley team in the championship last season. And they have cherry-picked that and said, you know what, he's only 38 years old, he's still learning how to coach, and if we put him at the reins of one of the most talented teams in the world, and he's able to implement that type of playing that we were seeing at Burnley, then it might just work. And Vincent Kompany has the added benefit of being a world-class player in his day, in fairly recent memory, because he's only 38 years old, so all of the players will listen to him. A lot of the players that are going to be on the Bayern team were his peers, which creates a different dynamic entirely. So there's no concern about the players on Bayern Munich listening to Vincent Kompany and what he has to say, and they're just projecting out his potential and saying, well, we think he's going to be a good coach at some point. Right? Not to say he's not a good coach now. I mean, he's a way better coach than I am. The dude was just coaching in the Premier League, and he turned Burnley from a defense-first, long ball type team into a tiki-taka masterclass that won the championship. But that didn't exactly translate. There is one time, one season, that this man has coached at the top level of the game with Burnley in the Premier League. Is that the easiest job in the world? No, but Sean Dyche did it for a long time, and he's not getting the Bayern job. Okay, and this Burnley team, out of the three teams that got promoted, is the one that was supposed to do the best. Because they won the league going away. They were unstoppable, right? The way everybody was talking about them. And that was deservedly so. They had an unbelievable year last year, but it was just 1 year. You go up to the Premier League and then basically for the vast majority of the season look very convincingly like you're going to get relegated. They showed a little sign of life in the last month and a half of the season, but that was quickly swatted away. And now they're going back down and they're paying £10 million in compensation to bring that guy to come on over to Bayern Munich. Now, Bayern ended up in a pretty ugly situation. So I have to imagine that a lot of the people at Bayern are perhaps not over the moon and thrilled, and that's why they took a swing at somebody that they believed had high managerial potential. Because I remind you, they've been rejected, as ESPN points out in this article, by Xabi Alonso, Julian Nagelsmann, and Ralf Rangnick. All three of them rejected the opportunity. Sorry, I said the name wrong. Ralf Rangnick, Rangnick, whatever. I can never say it. You know who I mean. All of those guys turned down the opportunity to manage at Bayern. And anytime you're getting to your fourth choice, you're probably not going to be able to stick the landing. But to grab somebody like Vincent Kompany is actually mind-blowing. It's almost like we're testing out the theory that if you grabbed any average mid-table manager in the Premier League and put them in charge of Bayern Munich, that they'd actually still be able to go out there and win a lot of games. I mean, Bayern Munich has a squad worth more than the rest of the Bundesliga combined, sometimes it feels like, right? They're the only team that spends wage-wise and transfer-wise at a top Premier League level in the Bundesliga. There is no other team in the Bundesliga that is able to spend at that level of the Real Madrids, the PSGs, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Manchester Cities, right? There is only one team in the Bundesliga that is doing that. It's Bayern Munich, and now you're taking charge of that team. But who knows what Bayer Leverkusen's going to have up their sleeve next season. I talked about this. Bayern Munich actually had more points this year than they did last year, but they still finished third because Leverkusen was amazing, and Stuttgart had a ridiculous year as well, but they only got overshadowed because Leverkusen went unbeaten in the entire league season. But Bayern Munich is still good and still has plenty of talent. So I'm almost worried that my take here is going to be wrong, that I'm shocked that Vincent Kompany is going to end up in the job, because it is a job that it is, in a lot of ways, fairly easy to succeed in. Now, there are high expectations, and if he doesn't win the league again next year, he will definitely be in the hot seat. But Vincent Kompany, this totally could work. All they needed was somebody that the players would listen to and that was tactically astute. But it also just doesn't make a lot of sense. I know I've said that like 4 times, but I'm really just trying to convince myself that a guy that got relegated with Burnley is becoming the coach. Honestly, this is just proof that being a household name is one of the most valuable things out there. Because you know who's not on this list? Who's not on this list of coaches that turned them down? Look, they might have tried to contact him, but Sebastian Hoeneß coached Stuttgart to a higher level than Bayern Munich. Did we even make a phone call? I would be offended on behalf of Stuttgart, Sebastian Hoeneß, and any Bayern Munich fan out there if that phone call was not placed to try and sign that guy. Unless he's got some sort of passionate hatred of Bayern Munich. He didn't just complete an unbeaten championship season like Xabi Alonso, but he's clearly an amazing German-speaking coach, right? And somebody that has proven it at a higher level than Vincent Kompany's ever gotten close to. Because let me take you back into the beginning of Vincent Kompany's career, 2 years at Anderlecht, and he never finished in the top 2. Right, he ended up in the playoff and finished 4th in his first season. I believe they finished 3rd in his second season at Anderlecht. He's got 1 year in the 2nd division of England. Now, that's the best 2nd division of the world, but it's still a 2nd division. And then you go up to the Premier League and could not adapt those tactics to play against better teams. Well, now he's getting handed the Rolls Royce. This guy's jumping into the Red Bull to go race F1, right? Which means if he's a half-decent driver, or a half-decent manager, if we're going to get to the other side of this metaphor at some point, then he is going to be able to go at a pretty good speed and win a lot of games at Bayern Munich. But there is a difference between Pep Guardiola and Mauricio Pochettino, right? There is a difference between a Thomas Tuchel, right, and a Graham Potter. You can be handed the keys to a lot of money and a talented team and succeed and find trophies and still manage to not succeed, even though you're probably going to win a decent number of matches. Except for Potter, who didn't even win a decent number of matches and apparently is pricing out a move to Ajax, which doesn't make any sense, but I'll talk about that at a different time. Kompany's racing in the Red Bull now. He's going to be able to win a lot of games, but this is far from a slam dunk hire. I could have thought of 10 other people that made more sense for this job. I mean, what's going on with Bayern Munich's recruiting? You don't want to go after Amorim? He's been amazing at Sporting. Everybody loves him. Even somebody like Pioli coming out of an AC Milan situation where they just seem to want him out. He definitely had that team humming for a while. I mean, we're talking about a team that made that super deep run in the Champions League just last year. There were coaches with much better pedigrees, much better resumes, that either didn't get a chance or didn't interview as well as Vincent Kompany. I'm making this video fully aware of the fact that I could be proven wrong in 2 years and Vincent Kompany has turned Bayern Munich into a juggernaut. And Burnley, turns out, just failed Vincent Kompany when it came to trying to supply him with the right players for the Premier League. But there just isn't a body of work for anybody to be sure about anything with this move. They've given him a 3-year contract. I would probably be surprised, not probably, I would be very surprised if he makes it to the end of that 3-year contract, because this is something that could definitely go off the rails, especially if he struggles early, because I am not the only person thinking this. If you are a Bayern Munich fan or even a Bayern Munich player, because everybody from Alphonso Davies to Joshua Kimmich was waiting to see who the new coach was going to be before they signed a new contract, and you open the season and win 2 of your first 6 matches, the questions are going to start flying around, because everybody knows Vincent Kompany doesn't have the credentials as a manager to be at the point that he's at now, and he's only 38 years old. This whole situation could enter some sort of weird death spiral, but I'm going to side with my forehead brother on this one. You got a big forehead. I'm team you, right? We have that special connection. It's basically like twins. We can speak telekinetically, and he's confident going into this job. He also really wanted to take it. Burnley wanted 20 million pounds in compensation. They ended up settling for 10. I have to imagine Kompany and his agent were kind of turning all of the screws to make that happen a little easier. But Vincent Kompany's going to Bayern Munich. Guardian's reporting it. ESPN's reporting it. It's all finalized, and it's all ready to go. And my goodness, 2 years ago, would you have imagined that was possible? I wouldn't have.